The wind moved like a memory low and dry, pushing dust across the cracked two-lane highway where telephone wires moaned like old ghosts. Faded sunflowers drooped in the ditch, their heads bowed toward the dirt. The only sound was the distant rumble of a V8 engine, steady and slow. Dragging a trailer full of scrap behind a rust-bitten red pickup, asterisk. Inside that truck sat a man who'd stopped speaking to God, asterisk. Luke Rollins gripped the wheel with work-worn hands. The calluses on his knuckles were older than the scar that crossed the back of his neck. His flannel shirt was threadbare at the collar. The ashtray overflowed. A photo was wedged between the cracked speedometer and the dashboard curled at the edges, fading to gray. A little girl's smile, frozen in time, her front teeth missing. Her eyes wild with joy. Asterisk. He didn't look at it anymore. Not on purpose, asterisk. The road unrolled like a scar through Kansas wheat country, where every barn looked abandoned and every sign was sun-bleached and pocked with bullet holes. He passed an old gas station with boarded-up windows and a family of deer picking through rusted trash cans. No lights. No people. Just the heavy silence of forgotten land. Then he saw them. Two small figures on the side of the road, where an old wooden bus stop leaned like it wanted to collapse. The smaller one sat on the bench, swinging her bare legs, while the other stood, arms folded, chin high like a soldier. Though her coat barely fit and her boots had holes, asterisk, they didn't wave, they didn't run. They just watched, asterisk. He passed them in 3 seconds. And in the fourth, his foot slammed the brakes, asterisk. Dust whooshed up around the tires. The trailer rattled. Luke didn't curse. He just stared at the road ahead, heart slowing. Fingers loosening from the wheel, asterisk. Then he reversed, asterisk. The truck creaked back toward the girls like it was crawling toward a wound. As he pulled up, the taller twin stepped in front of her sister. Arms wide, not in fear, but in defense. Luke rolled down his window, careful not to lean too far. "You girls all right?" His voice was gravel-soaked in fatigue, asterisk. The taller one didn't answer. She didn't blink, asterisk. The younger one peered around her sister's side, her cheeks red from cold. A whisper, carried on wind and trembling lips, asterisk. We were told to wait. Asterisk. Luke stared. There were no backpacks, no lunchboxes. No adult in sight, just them. And the sinking sun bleeding gold into the wheat fields behind them, asterisk. He rubbed the back of his neck. Thought of the sheriff 30 miles east. Thought of the storm warning that morning radio had mumbled about. Thought of his old generator, barely clinging to life, and the woodpile stacked behind his cabin, asterisk. "I can give you a ride to town," he said, quiet, slow, asterisk. The older twin squinted at him, eyes like steel under clouds. She reached behind her back and pulled her sister closer, still saying nothing, asterisk. Luke tapped the steering wheel, then opened the door. He didn't move fast, didn't move close. Just walked to the back, dropped the tailgate of his trailer, and pointed at the 2 hay bales sitting on either side of an old toolbox, asterisk. You can ride back there. I'll leave the window open, just a ride, just till town, asterisk. The younger twin tugged at her sister's sleeve, a wordless plea. A shared glance, then silence, then nod. Asterisk. Luke didn't smile. He just waited as they climbed in, pulling the threadbare coat tighter around them both. When he started the truck, he saw them in the rear view, sitting side by side on a hay bale, faces tight, hands clutching each other like lifelines. The storm rolled in as the sun died. Rain began as mist. Then sleet. Then solid bullets of ice that smacked against the windshield like thrown gravel. Luke's wipers groaned under the weight. He leaned forward, squinting through the windshield, muttering to himself. The road ahead blurred. Signs disappeared. Trees danced sideways in the wind. Asterisk. After another mile, he slowed to a crawl. Red warning lights flashed on the radio tower nearby. The town was still 20 miles out. They wouldn't make it. He pulled onto a side road barely wide enough for the trailer. Tires crunched over frozen gravel. He took the path he knew blind. 2 lefts, 1 right, past the collapsed silo, and through the hollow where the deer used to drink. The woods grew thick, the rain thickened. The sky turned black. Asterisk. By the time he reached his cabin, Ice had crusted the trees like bones. Asterisk, he parked under the lean-to. Killed the engine. Asterisk, the twins hadn't moved. They sat curled together, shivering under a torn wool blanket that hadn't been there before. Luke looked at them for a long moment, then opened the door. "Come inside. Power's out, but there's a fire." Asterisk, no reply. Just two sets of eyes that weighed his soul like a scale. Asterisk, he left the truck running, opened the front door of the cabin, and stoked the fire, threw in 2 thick logs. The flames danced orange shadows across the wooden walls covered in shelves of old tools, tins of soup, faded war medals, and a single framed drawing of a girl holding a wrench. Asterisk, they came. In together, asterisk, socks soaked, fingers purple, silent. Asterisk, he handed them each a towel and pointed to the fire. The younger one sank down like a flower collapsing. The older stood for a moment longer, staring at the room like she was memorizing every escape. Asterisk, then she nodded. "And sut." Asterisk, Luke brewed weak coffee and set out crackers and peanut butter. The girls didn't ask for more, didn't speak. Just watched the fire like it might tell them their future. Asterisk, he didn't ask questions. "Not yet." Asterisk, instead, he brought out an old lantern and lit it low, pulled 2 extra blankets from the hall closet, laid them near the fire. Then went out to turn off the truck. Asterisk, when he came back, they were asleep, curled together like kittens. Under the wool, cheeks red, lips parted, asterisk, Luke knelt beside the fire, stared at the flames until the ache in his chest spread down his spine and into the floor. Asterisk, he hadn't prayed in years. Asterisk, but that night, he whispered something. Asterisk, not to God, but to the girl in the photo on his dashboard. Asterisk. Snow had fallen by morning. Not gentle flakes, but sharp needles driven by a restless wind that scratched at the cabin's wooden bones. The windows had frosted over. The power line had snapped sometime in the night. Asterisk, but inside the fire still. Lived low but alive? Its glow touched the sleeping faces of the twins and the stillness of Luke, who had not slept. He sat in the rocking chair beside the hearth, arms folded, the flicker of flame drawing shadows beneath his eyes. Asterisk, he had been listening all night, for tires, for boots crunching ice, for anything out there looking for them. Nothing came. The taller twin stirred first. She sat up slowly, like she wasn't sure the warmth was real. Her eyes flicked to the door, then the windows, then to Luke. Asterisk, he didn't speak. Just nodded once, slow and steady. Asterisk, she stood and walked past him, not carelessly, not fearfully, but like she was testing the edge of every board beneath her feet. She found the stove, opened it, checked the empty kettle, then brought it to him, held it out like a quiet request. Luke took it without a word. Water from the melted snow was warming on the iron top within minutes. Steam curled toward the ceiling. Outside, the wind moaned like an animal that hadn't eaten in weeks. Asterisk, by the time the younger twin woke, the scent of boiled oats filled the room. Her eyes fluttered open and locked on Luke, then softened when she saw her sister standing beside him, holding 2 bowls. They ate without a word. Luke didn't ask who they were, didn't ask where they came from, but he did watch, the older. One had a way of tilting her head just before every sound, like she was trained to detect patterns. The younger one drew with a piece of charcoal on a scrap of paper she found near the fireplace. A barn, a flag, a woman in uniform standing between 2 children. The lines were simple, but steady. Luke stiffened. His breath caught as he stared at the figure in the drawing. Not the woman, but the insignia scrawled on her shoulder. Asterisk, it was military. It was specific. It was his unit. Asterisk, he stood too fast. The floorboard groaned under his boots. The girls didn't flinch. He walked out into the snow, hands in fists, breath steaming. The cold slapped his face, but it was the memory that cut deeper. A desert night long ago, a blood-stained uniform, a radio call gone silent. Asterisk, and a voice. Her voice, "If anything happens to me, promise me." He thought it was a dream, until now. Asterisk. He lit a cigarette with shaking fingers and stared at the line of trees beyond the clearing. Ice fell from the limbs like glass. His cabin sat like a forgotten thing in the hollow, with no trail leading in, but someone had found these girls. Dropped them on a roadside bench in the middle of nowhere. Told them to wait. His gut twisted. He walked back in, snow clinging to his boots. The girls were by the fire again. The younger one had fallen asleep with her drawing tucked beneath. Her arm, the older one, met his eyes. Luke pointed to the picture. "Who is she?" His voice was rough. The girl hesitated. Then whispered, "Mama, *" He crouched down slowly. Reached out, not to touch her, but to hold the drawing. He turned it over. Nothing, but the style, the lines, *" she served? He asked. *" The girl's lips pressed together. Then, like you. His blood slowed. "Where is she now?" *" The girl looked away, pulled the blanket tighter. Didn't speak again? *" Luke rose, walked to the back of the cabin, opened the footlocker under his bed. Inside, medals, a photo of his unit. Letters, one burned around the edges, *, and a sealed envelope with a child's scrawl on the front. "For Luke, when you find us. *" He didn't open it. Not yet. Just stared at it until the sound of tires reached his ears. *" He froze, then stepped to the window. Black SUV sat motionless at the far edge of the clearing just beyond the trees. No plates, just stillness. *" It was gone before he could open. The door. *" He stood in the snow for a long time, heart pounding, the air slicing into his lungs. They knew where he lived. That night he moved the girls' bedding away from the window. Secured the back door. Double-checked the old hunting rifle behind the kitchen wall. *" They slept without knowing. But not without fear. By dawn someone had left food on the porch, a small tin, still warm, wrapped in a worn cloth with a mark stitched at the corner. A triangle inside a circle. *" Luke knew that mark. He'd seen it once, a decade ago, branded on the wrist of a healer in the tribal territory west of the mountains. He packed the girls into the truck. They didn't ask where he was going. *" The road was half frozen, flanked by woods that bent under the weight of snow. He drove slow, keeping the rifle under his seat, eyes flicking to the rearview mirror every few seconds. *" The older twin kept her hand on her sister's leg the whole time, not possessive, just steady, as if she were the gravity keeping them both from floating into space. *" The gas station at the county line had long since shut down, but beside it sat an old chapel made from stone and silence. Its door was open. She was waiting inside. Old Mariah, *" blind, wrapped in layers of wool and smoke, her hair braided with leather and beads. She didn't rise when they entered. Didn't greet them. *" Just said, "Took you long enough, Luke?" He didn't speak. The girls stood frozen. Then the younger one walked to the old woman and reached out to touch the mark on her wrist. *" Old Mariah smiled. Luke's throat tightened. "How? Do you know them?" he asked, barely above a whisper. *" I knew their mother," Mariah said. "She saved my life, just like she saved yours." *" Luke sank into the pew across from her. The girl sat between them, one trembling, one steady as stone. *" She said. "You'd take them," Mariah said, "when the time came." *" She knew I was still alive? *" She said you wouldn't be," Mariah answered. But she hoped. The wind howled through the broken stained glass above the altar. Mariah reached into her pocket, pulled out a folded photo, held it out to him. *" Luke took it, opened it. It was her, the woman from the desert, the one who pulled him from the burning wreck. Her name, Sergeant Calla Wade, the one who never made it back. *" And in the photo, she was holding two newborns. Twins. Luke pressed the picture to his chest and closed his eyes. *" He didn't cry, *" but he breathed like something inside him had been waiting to exhale for years. *" When they returned to the cabin that night, Luke didn't lock the door out of fear. He locked it because now he had something worth guarding again. *" The snow softened by evening, but the wind did not. *" It clawed at the windows, slipping through the seams of old wood and forgotten caulking. The fire inside the cabin had burned low. Only embers now and quiet casting light over the floor. Where the twins slept, curled under the same blanket, their breath slow and warm, Luke sat by the window. He hadn't touched the envelope again. It rested beside the photo, on the edge of the workbench, weighed down by a rusted wrench. Every so often he glanced at it, but never long. There were things you didn't open because you were scared, and then there were things you didn't open because you already knew. Midnight passed without sound. Then came the crunch of tires. Not distant, not passing, close. Luke moved without noise. He took the rifle from behind the stove and checked the chamber. His boots slid across the wooden floor like he'd done this in 100 cities before this hollow one. He stepped onto the porch. Cold bit his face. Down the slope, at the edge of the tree line, the black SUV had returned. This time it didn't. Hide, it idled, silent, its headlights off, but the engine growled like something coiled and waiting. He stepped back inside and locked the door. Bolted the window. Doused the fire with snow and moved the girls behind the pantry wall. They didn't scream, didn't cry. The older twin held her sister close and nodded once at Luke, like a soldier ready. Then came the knock. 3, flat. Precise. Luke didn't answer. He slid through the shadows to the back door and slipped outside, boots silent on the packed snow. His coat flapped in the wind like a ragged flag. He moved around the cabin. Past the chicken coop. Past the rusted water pump. His breath froze before it left his mouth. 2 men stood at the front porch. Dark coats, military posture, clean boots. They carried nothing visible, but Luke could see the bulges under their jackets. They hadn't come to ask questions. He stepped around behind the barn and into the lean dash to lit a match. Dropped it into a tin of kerosene-soaked rags. Flames flared, and the barn exploded with light. The men turned. One shouted. Then movement. Luke used the distraction. Slid through the side brush, circled wide, cut through the smoke. The back tires of the SUV gleamed in the firelight. He jammed a wedge beneath one axle and sliced the front tire with a hunting knife. Fast, quiet, footsteps behind him. He spun and tackled the shape in the dark. They hit the snow hard, and Luke's elbow came down like a hammer. The man gasped. Luke pinned him with the rifle and looked down, not a stranger, a scarred face. Tattoo on the collarbone. The mark of the 117th. Luke's old unit. The man. Coughed blood and choked out. Wade's girls? Luke's grip tightened. Why are you here? They found out, the man hissed. Her death wasn't. They wanted silence. Luke stared, breath ragged. They'll kill them, the man rasped. Unless you disappear. A shout from the porch, another figure coming fast. Luke grabbed the rifle and rolled, firing once into the snowbank. Not to kill, to delay. He ran through the sidewoods toward the cabin. Toward the girls. Gunfire cracked behind him. Wild, panicked. Bullets punched holes through tree bark and bit the frozen earth. He burst into the cabin, slammed the door and dropped the iron bar across it. The girls stood where he left them. Still, ready, he crouched in front of them. You know how to follow? The older one nodded. He handed her the envelope. Don't open it. Just keep it. To the younger, he pressed a compass into her hand. You see the sun come up? You go where it rises? He stood. Turned to the window. Figures moved beyond the snow haze. Shadows shaped like men, but colder. I'll give you a head start. He said, voice cracked. The older girl stepped forward. We don't want to leave. Luke smiled, soft and broken. You don't get to choose what saves you, he said. You only get to run toward it. She hesitated, then she took her sister's hand and led her to the back window. Luke opened it, helped them out into the night. They vanished like smoke. And he turned. He kicked out the front chair, sat down and lit a cigarette with fingers that no longer trembled. The front door shook, then shattered inward. Luke raised the rifle, and didn't miss. The first man went down screaming. The second crashed into the wall and dropped a blade. Asterisk the third. Hesitated. Asterisk Luke stood slowly. Raised the rifle again. Tell them, he said, voice low. Tell them I kept the promise. The man backed out, ran. Asterisk by dawn, the smoke from the barn had drifted into the sky like a signal flare. The snow had swallowed all footprints. Asterisk. The cabin was quiet. Asterisk, so quiet. You could hear the whisper of paper as it fluttered open. Asterisk, the envelope lay on the floor, torn in the chaos. The photo spilled out, Wade in uniform, holding two girls. And beneath it, a single sentence in her handwriting. Asterisk, if you find them before they're lost, they're yours now. The girls were found 2 towns over by a rancher at dawn. Asterisk, he fed them, called no one, and gave them shelter. Asterisk, 2 days later, a stranger dropped a duffel bag on his porch. Cash. IDs, a note with one line. Asterisk, keep them safe. Tell them he made it. The girls never saw Luke again, but every spring, when the snow melted, they walked toward the east until the sun touched the fields and left a flower where the road met the horizon. Asterisk, and every year, someone left a drawing in return. Asterisk 2. Girls and a man standing between them. Asterisk,